Hey guys, this is Mitch. We're back. We're picking up where we left off, and we're doing Shadowhawk Volume 2. This is number 2. This is the big secret revealed issue. This is the one we've all been waiting for. So just before we get into it, if you enjoyed the channel, if you feel like you might want to support me a little bit as an artist, in the description you'll find links to my Patreon, and if you subscribe there, that gives you access to everything I do, all the Blood Force, all the YouTube videos, everything in between. And then going over to my Instagram, I'm dropping Inktober pictures there every day, and you can hit me up there for commissions if you like. So, what happened in the last issue, right? Well, that was Volume 2, Issue 1. And when we kicked things off, Shadowhawk was still recuperating from his fight at the end of Volume 1 when he had to go toe-to-toe with Savage Dragon. And he was still pretty bruised up from that. And now he's having to deal with a new threat on his turf. This is Hawk Shadow, who's a copycat vigilante, although whereas Shadowhawk goes around breaking the spines of criminals, Hawk Shadow just murders people, specifically black men. He hasn't met him yet. That'll maybe happen in this issue. In the meantime, Vendetta and her crew of supervillains have recruited a new member, Hard Edge, who's a total parody character, as far as I can see. And they're just establishing themselves as sort of a group of mercenaries. They're acting as her kind of hit squad, really, or her hired goons. And so far, one thing hasn't really had anything to do with the other, although Shadowhawk went to stop them one time, and they just kind of laughed at him and left him alone to deal with the cops. So that was probably a little bit emasculating. So where does that leave us for this issue? That's pretty much all the setup we got. And this one was heavily marketed as the issue where we were all going to find out who Shadowhawk really was. This is essentially issue 6 of the series. It didn't exactly keep us in waiting too much. So let's get into things. We can start with the cover here. Is there any way to describe it other than disappointing? Anticlimactic? There's another one. I mean, I get that, the purpose of the book is to reveal Shadowhawk's identity. But there's got to be a better way to do it than that. This is completely boring. This is a flat angle. This is the back of a dude's head. I mean, we know it's Shadowhawk, but still, I don't know who this person is supposed to be. I don't think it is anybody in the book, unless it's Hawk Shadow. We do get the embossed silver foil logo there, so that's something, because you can't have a Shadowhawk book go by that doesn't have some sort of cover enhancement. And yeah, working with what we know, where the Shadowhawk book is an experiment to see if they can make it a hit, it feels like Jim wasn't really pulling his weight on this cover. All the marketing, all the enhancements, and still you submit a drawing like that. All right. Well, not submit, you just print it. Okay, so let's get into it here. All the credits are going to be pretty much the same, I think. This one's dedicated to Will Eisner, who proved an artist can be a businessman, and for his great storytelling and reign. And we're going to cut right to what looks more like Frank Miller reign than Will Eisner reign. But we'll let that go. It's a good dramatic shot. There is the issue that I'm pretty sure Shadowhawk's eyes do not line up with these eye holes. Like, this is probably his nose here, so the Bridger's nose is around there. He's probably, like, having to peek under the rim of his eye hole, but who cares, right? If you put it a little higher, it might not look as cool. Wouldn't look as hawky. And we're going to go splash, double splash. I feel like Jim did not do this in Series 1, but he's all about it in Series 2. So he's doing what he can to keep pace. And it's a pretty good image for Splash. I would say the biggest problem is probably that rain, in that it obscures a whole lot. I mean, that's part of the deal, right? It's like, no, it's supposed to be that kind of torrential downpour where you have difficulty seeing. It's like, well, that's great, except that comics is a visual medium, and we kind of have to, try and figure out what's going on based on what we see. And it ruins these pretty good backgrounds we've been seeing out of Jim recently. I didn't notice a whole lot in Series 1. If I had to think about it, there are probably a few that weren't bad. But no, he seems to have picked it up for Series 2, or at the very least I'm noticing it more. And we're going to get a bit of backstory here, because Jim knows how to do comics right. He knows every comic is potentially somebody's first comic. particularly one that's been hyped up and is all about, selling as many copies as possible. And yeah, better rain here than here. Really likes doing the pinging off the armor here, eh? He's so difficult to spot. He's such an elusive vigilante with his big shiny plate metal. And it looks like his helmet's falling off a little bit here. That's got to be a tough helmet to try and draw from a lot of angles. Maybe that's one of the reasons Jim doesn't like Shadowhawk too much. All right, and this time it's different. This time someone is using my name. This time it's personal. And we've seen this shot a few times in the last issue. There was Hawk Shadow's big leap down, pretty similar. At the very least, similar leg placement. And there's this one here, fairly similar. The mask changed a little bit. Interesting. Nice lighting. Anyway, the colorist is, they're holding up their end of things. So, we've covered our backstory. We've covered our splash, double splash. We're doing it by the numbers here. So, what are we doing now? We're setting up a plot twist for issue 3, essentially. Where Lieutenant Jax, who was previously a Shadowhawk's suspect, but I think that's pretty much out the window now. I think it's pretty clear that Shadowhawk is a black man, but probably pretty clearly not this one, since he's ordering a hit on Shadowhawk. This is the chief, I think, Frakes, or Jax's partner. Actually, I think Jax's partner sounds about right. But yeah, judging by, the cover here, and some of the things that were said in issue 1, it seemed pretty clear Shadowhawk was a black guy. And we get this again with a photostated just background shot. And this one seems less necessary. It's not... I'm not even sure what this is supposed to be of. I assume it's the police precinct. But there's nothing really saying that one way or the other. And this is another one where Jim's just kind of putting this up instead of doing some artwork. I assume this is to keep things on schedule. So for that, again, I don't mind it too much. And it's a nice shot, At least when he does a photo, it's usually a nice shot. Oh, Max number 4 is out. Yeah, that's pretty much on time. July of 93? Yeah, because I think issue 1 came out in April. And Spawn by Todd McFarlane. What else do you need to know? I think it's a little weird that Todd felt the need to advertise Spawn in fucking Shadowhawk. Like there's people reading Shadowhawk going, wait, what's the Spawn guy? Maybe I've been looking in the wrong books. But yeah, maybe you have. I don't remember seeing that ad too many places. So Frakes is going to try and get Jax to get him in contact with Chapel. He has a connection with him through, I believe, the military. And meanwhile, back in Vendetta's office, I suppose, she's being met by some dignitaries, and Hard Edge is he's taken umbrage with Vendetta playing Princess, although that's kind of been her character the whole time, kind of socialite, dilettante kind of thing. And he's too much of an extreme stereotype to hold with that kind of nonsense. See his big ol' bunch of pockets here. You can see a little bit of his cape flying everywhere. Not too much in this one. And he talks like a fucking goof. I guess it's supposed to be like hard-boiled criminal talk. Like here he's got a problem with her getting her ring kissed. And he's like, it's a sign of respect. Don't you watch movies? He's like, yeah, of course I do. And I'll tell you, sweetie pie, ain't no way I'm kissing nobody's ring, no how. He's like, are you fucking serious? Like, I get the character's meant to be a joke. Is it supposed to be painful to read? And what we're bringing up here is that the supervillains have motivations that kind of clash with their employer. Vendetta just wants to expand her empire and protect her interests. The supervillains, Vortex here wants revenge on Shadowhawk. That's like the whole reason she's in with Vendetta, is because her brother got paralyzed by Shadowhawk. And it doesn't look like that's going to happen. I mean, the last time they did see him, they just left. They left him there. And then he escaped the cops. Nothing really benefited Vortex from that angle. So, she's got to be wondering why exactly she's here. Also, the fact that Vendetta did make an offer to Shadowhawk to join her group because he's a criminal, which he turned down because he thinks he's better than that. But that doesn't sit too well with Vortex, and I mean, which is good. It does follow her character. The only problem is that this is the first time we're hearing about it, and it didn't get brought up last issue. It didn't get brought up when the offer was extended. That's the only thing that's a little iffy for me, but I mean, it did get brought up eventually. I'm fine with that, I guess. And Hard Edge says it doesn't fit his plans either. We don't really find out what his plans are, but I mean, I'm sure that it just involves a ton of fucking hair gel. And probably buying more pockets. And another photostatted city skyline. And we've seen that he can do one pretty quick that looks pretty good. But I guess, there is the problem that it does take some time. And when you're the writer / penciler, well, he's not the inker anymore, but still, I guess he doesn't have the time to do the whole thing. As long as the books keep coming out on time, you can't really complain. This is meant to be on a 6-week schedule. At least that's what he said in issue 1. This one was slated for July. Previous one came out in May. Theoretically, the next one should come out in August, I would think. It does, too. Or at least that's when it's cover dated. So, as far as we can tell, Jim's on schedule there, so this is all excusable. And then we cut to just a brownstone somewhere where some guy is saying goodnight to his mom. He's going out in the rain, and he's taking his Hawk's Shadow visor with him because he's a sweetheart like that. So yeah, this is Hawk's Shadow, and he's a stereotypical racist white guy. Right down to the framed Ku Klux Klan photo on the wall. We are not being subtle about anything in this. And now cutting out, we get a lot of scene transitions in these, I will say. Oh, one thing I did want to point out. Another directional device with voop, voop. The lines here. Pretty good. Also no backgrounds, so that helps with the schedule, keep it on schedule. And we're cutting to Shadowhawk out in the rain. He doesn't like being in the rain. It makes him rust. And he's been told by Christina, who is a female detective that he associates with, that Hawk's Shadow is going to be out in the rain tonight, and he's got to be on the watch for him. And again, good backgrounds. Nice amount of detail. Not over the top. Doesn't look amazing. But, no, it's definitely solid. A lot of Jim's stuff is pretty solid. And we're cutting to an alley somewhere where Hawk's Shadow is donning his gear. And I think, getting a closer look at him, you start to get, maybe he's a parody character too. Again, with all the pockets and this random shoulder pad here and the gigantic arm blades. Like, it is a pretty silly look. A lot of Image characters look pretty silly, but, when you see it, I don't know. When I see how he did Hard Edge, and it's like, okay, I think Jim is just, trying to keep himself interested as much as he can. And I haven't said too much about the artwork, really. It's been fine. I gotta say, Chance Wolfe does... Okay, this stuff is like this is okay. It's not great. It's not, an exciting page anyway. Chance Wolfe does make Jim Valentino's stuff look better. So, good call there. And so waiting out there in the rain, he sees 3 black men walking down the street, assumes they must be gangbangers, because these are the assumptions he makes, and starts beating them up while yelling racist things. Always fun. And over the sound of the torrential rain and the sound of the city, he manages to pick out the sounds of the scuffle. It's possible, I suppose. It's pretty unlikely considering how far away it seems like he probably was. It does say he's just running along rooftops and hoping he hears something, and then he hears something. There's a fair amount of right place, right time in these books. Like, the whole Shadowhawk thing is that he sits on rooftops and waits until, he hears an alarm or a mugging takes place pretty much right under him. Alright, so Shadowhawk leaps down and confronts Hawk's Shadow. This is our big confrontation shot. Reasonably good. I could think of better ways to set this panel up. But, it's all okay. Everything at this point is it's like a good C plus or so, maybe a B minus on the odd page. So naturally, Shadowhawk just gets in and starts wailing on him because he perceives him as a usurper. He's taken over his territory. He's doing it wrong. He's doing it in a way that he doesn't condone. So he's going to start beating on him. At which point, Hawk Shadow gets defensive and just like, wow, what's the problem? I'm just doing what you do. I'm just killing the N-word. So that's great. But of course, that sets Shadowhawk off. I'm not sure exactly that it should have. I mean, we've seen before. He's said it himself that Hawk Shadow is just killing black men. But so he takes his helmet off, starts taking his hood off, and oh, you mean like me? I can't get this whole thing in here. And it's fine, I guess. I think the problem is that we haven't seen very much of this character in this particular series yet. He didn't show up a lot in issue 1. He showed up briefly when he was trying to apply for a job. And even then, he was silhouetted. So it was almost as though Jim wanted us to forget about Paul Livingstone. And the problem is that, well, I mean, for one thing, there aren't a lot of black characters in this book. I mean, there was Hojo before, but that's about it, I think. And, I mean, so, like, this kind of could be anybody. There's nothing distinguishing about his face. So we're just kind of stuck, going, oh, he's black. Not, oh, he's Paul. And also we had the weird fold out where it folded out that way, but that doesn't work too badly. It should theoretically be the other way, which means the fold out should be here. And I guess the page count just didn't work out that way. So cut back, and of course, he puts his helmet back on, kicks him in the face. Also put his shroud back on, the hood. So like he took his time a little bit. And yeah, starts beating him up. Hawk Shadow gets a shot in on his chin and manages to slash his hood open. And now we can see that he's black. We did see that before. And hits him again. And is about to kill him before he stopped. This is all a little confusing. Not too bad. I mean, you go here, you go all the way across because he's careful to make sure panels cross the page border. That's good. And also not putting anything important. I mean, he puts Shadowhawk's face in the middle there, but it's a fold, not a binding thing. So that's fine. Yeah, no, it's all reasonably good. And nice shot here. With the silhouette, the rain, the lightning, I suppose. And it's Christina who stops him. And well, you're going to kill him. And he's like, well, I kind of want to, yes. And I was like, no, because then you're just the same as him. This isn't about vengeance. It's about justice. Remember justice, Shadowhawk. And if you kill him, you're the exact same thing as what you hunt. And it doesn't change anything. Well, I mean, it might. He is going to be arrested in a couple of pages. But I mean, you think when he gets out, he's going to have reformed? Or is he going to go back to killing black people? It seems a bit like it. So I don't know, maybe killing him. I mean, either kill him or like paralyze him. That's what you do. Didn't do either one of those. We've already established that paralyzing a man is not morally objectionable. So just on your way out, just have a crack, little one. I guess the reason you don't do that, of course, is so that Hawk Shadow can return. And then I got to assume he paralyzes him there. I don't think he would kill him if he's going to make this big of a deal about it. So the cops show up. Jax and Frakes, I think. Yeah. And they find Hawk Shadow. And they check to see if he's alive. And they got to call for an ambulance and all that. And they're sure that's who he is. I mean, I don't know exactly why you'd assume that. Unless he says, he might say it. He seems like the kind of goof who would say, I'm taking back the night, I'm Hawk Shadow, all that kind of stuff. And I go, oh, well, thank you for making our jobs easier. I appreciate that. All right, so Captain Freaks, oh, he's the captain. Hey, what do you know? Sends the word out to Shadowhawk via the reporter that he's next. Not that he did anything to capture Hawk Shadow. You know, actually, Shadowhawk was the one who doled out the beating, but that's fine. And Chapel gets in touch with Jax, tells him, I can't help you, but I know a guy who can, and that's this guy here, Slaughter, who's just got all sorts of junk on. He's like the most, this is kind of generic looking. He's got his big Liefeld gun. He's got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bandoliers. I don't know what that is. Maybe a hunting horn? That'd be kind of cool. You got a grenade. Pistol. Dagger. Probably another dagger. All his stuff says, no hope. Okay. And, another grenade here. Oh, is this another pistol? Is that a pistol grip? I thought that was like his purse for a second. All right, so next time, it's the world's first pull-up cover. Wait till you see that shit if you haven't before. And we're going to go to the Shadowhawk Gallery. We've got one by Chance Wolf. Not bad. That works better than Jim. No backgrounds to speak of. But again, these are quick sketches. These aren't detailed commissions or anything. Of course, I say that, and then we flip to George Perez, who just puts in a complete fucking skyline. And a pretty nicely thought out piece. But then that's George Perez for you, right? And then we're going to cut to Dale Keown. He's not going to get nearly as fancy. It does look nice. I don't know why he looks like it's the Hulk under there. He was careful not to give him gigantic biceps, but like that neck is large. And those shoulders. But it does all look very nice. Dale Keown, even when doing like a quick thing, like his hatching is just very pleasing to the eye. I don't know, the way he does it, it's very nice. And we're going to get some more letters. This is mostly stuff with people guessing, I think, who Shadowhawk was. Or this is all one letter. Okay, I wasn't sure at first. And he's basically presenting his case. And because they guessed it, they got a tour of Ronald's. What is Ronald's? Ronald's printing plant in Montreal. Oh. That's a surprise, I suppose. I think so it's this kid here. Good job there, Jeff. And a box full of great books from all-around swell guy Gabriel Sauro. Okay. And as soon as we figure out what to send, he'll get pieces of original art. That's pretty good. Actually. Because, I mean, as somebody who just read it, as like, who is Shadowhawk? And, generally, when reading it, the answer, for me at least, was, who gives a shit? For people who were invested and actually, looked for clues, there were clues there, I suppose. And, there's these clues here, apparently. And in the next issue, the conclusion to our second story arc and our second but not last finite series. This one's called Like Lambs to the Ellipses. I am familiar with that saying, yes. And it introduces Slaughter to the comic book world. And if you think that this is going to be anything like the Shadowhawk Savage Dragon pairing, think again. So there's not going to be a fight. Cool. Okay, I'm interested to see how that goes then. Get ready for one of the wildest rides and one of the most incredible covers ever. It is a little incredible. And we also get a preview now of Images of Shadowhawk by Keith Giffen in his weird fucking trencher style. And we're going to get just a little bit of hype here, but we also get some shots of some Shadowhawk pages. And you get the impression that Keith Giffen knows a bit more about page construction than Jim Valentino, or at least about how to make it interesting. Because that is the one part where Jim kind of struggles. Okay, And we get an ad for Bean World. So I believe they're starting to associate with Larry Martyr now because they're running into a whole bunch of trouble because they're constantly behind schedule. And they're not doing a very good job as publishers. So they brought in an independent guy, which isn't necessarily the best way to go. Honestly, I would recommend bringing in a businessman who goes, okay, is your product getting out on time? And you go, no. And he goes, what? How, what? That's your job. You're the publisher. So, that was Shadowhawk Volume 2, Number 2. It's okay. It feels like the cover's probably the biggest disappointment. And the actual reveal, because we haven't been focusing very much on Paul at all. Oh, no, I'm not getting into that again. Yeah, it is a bit of just confusion if you haven't really been paying attention, I suppose. That's the thing. If they'd set Paul up as being more of a character in the first series, that would have been better. But it was more about setting up a rogues gallery and setting up the thing with Vendetta, it feels like. That's the only thing with villains that carried over. And it was a through line throughout the entire series. And we didn't get any characters really establishing themselves as interesting. So that's a bit of a problem. So we'll see how it all wraps up. We'll see if... I mean, it kind of did. Really, where next issue is just going to introduce a new problem, I suppose, and then solve it in the same thing, right? Because now we know who Shadowhawk is. He's dealt with Hawk's shadow unless he escapes immediately. So next issue seems a little bit redundant. I don't know. I haven't read it yet. We'll see how that goes. In the meantime, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notifications so you know when the next one's coming out. Go over to my Patreon and subscribe there. That gives you access to everything I do, all the Blood Force stuff, the pages, the finished comics, all of the YouTube videos before they make it out, usually a week or so in advance, as well as the not YouTube videos, the special video. No, nothing like that. But there's some progress stuff and like unboxings, and there's a few things that I put up there that don't make it out to actually YouTube. And then head over to my Instagram, and there I'm dropping Inktober pictures until the end of time. And while you're checking those out, you can DM me for commissions, and I will accept, because I'm just a good guy like that. So yeah, thanks again for watching the video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.